we are all aware that every Goan knows one or more languages. And on this occasion, we are going to publish 3 books written by Sandesh Prabhudesai, one in Konkani, one in Marathi, and one in English. So this is what represents the multilingualism in Goa. Any Goan, even an ordinary Goan, I mean, I don't mean to say that any person is ordinary, but I mean common man knows minimum 3 languages. So here is a writer who has written 3 books in 3 different languages, and this is a celebration for multilingualism. Whether multilingualism is going to help our culture or not is to be discussed. Because anyway, the session starts now. As you all know, the panelists, I would like to invite the panelists before the book launch. Let the panelists sit here. I will request Chris Muni Singh, who has come all the way from Singapore. He is a poet, renowned poet, and also a novelist. In the making, I would say, because his novel will be shortly published. He is come all the way from Singapore. Please give him a big hand. Then we have Datta Damodar Naik, a writer from essays from Goa, who is known as a thinker, as a travelogue writer, and also an essayist who is a Sahitya Akademi Award winner. Datta Damodar Naik, who writes in Konkani. We have Vishram Gupte, a novelist, and also known as a critic, who writes in Marathi. He also hails from Goa. Then we have Arupa Patanya Kalita. Arupa, please. She has come all the way from Assam. She writes, she is also a short fiction writer and novelist. A very well-known writer from Assam. Welcome, Arupa. Please. Then we have Nirija Mattu, a senior writer from from Kashmir, who writes in Kashmiri. She is widely translated, also a short fiction writer and novelist. And then we have Gulzar Saab, who is going to launch the books and also lead the panel discussion. May I request Gulzar Saab, please. I know Gulzar Saab needs no introduction because Gulzar Saab is not only a poet, a writer. I love his short stories, and also who has won the Oscar-winning filmmaker. No, Gulzar Saab, aap yahan aaye, please. Yeah, and the writer of these 3 books, Sandesh Prabhudesai. Please take your seat, Sandesh. Yeah. Before we start the panel discussion, and where I will hand over the mic to Gulzar Saab. Before that, I would request Gulzar Saab to please launch the book. So 3 books releasing at one time. Please. And I request Rama Hanekar. Rama Hanekar is very well-known printer, who has produced some excellent books, not only in English but other languages also. So now I request Gulzar Saab. I remember some time back we had a function in Panaji. We had a mushaira where several poets from all over country had come. And I remember I was the executive committee member of Sahitya Akademi, and Narang Saab was there, the president of Sahitya Akademi, who addressed Gulzar Saab as Hindi mein कहता हूँ, आप दूल्हे राजा हैं, हम तो बाराती हैं. तो आप सब बाराती हैं. Now I request Gulzar Saab to please speak something about the multilingualism and the books, and then lead the panel discussion, please.
Actually, there are 6 batsmen, and I have only to roll the ball. So I'm on that side of the wicket. There are not 3 wickets here on this side. The sides will not be changed. There's only 1 wicket on this side, and 6 players and 6 batsmen are there to for it. What I have to roll the ball is talking about Sandesh, these three books I would start with. One in English, one in Marathi, one in Hindi. Konkan, sorry, the mother tongue. Now, as I was saying this morning also, it's very normal with an Indian here, speaking, listening, using three languages, minimum. Sometimes it's more. Sometimes when they promise that you're employed, that, for example, so working in Marathi becomes added one for a Punjabi or a Bengali, or working in Bengal, the infectious Bengali language, जो आप 10 दिन वहाँ पे रहें, तो उसके बाद आप हिंदी भी गोल गोल करके बोलने लग जाते हैं. That's such an infectious language. And we pick up each other's languages easily, क्योंकि एक तो ये है कि कल्चर से हम लोग बंधे हुए हैं आपस में, कहीं ना कहीं culturally we share all that kind of living together. But it's a wonderful feat to do this, to have this confidence and write books in all languages that you know. And perhaps Sandesh, I think, knows more than 3 languages, or maybe understanding more or writing may not be there, but using more languages than 3. But to feel at home and feel confident in 3 languages, which I think is remarkable, and you deserve a big clap for that. Really. It's a wonderful thing. I know you have mentioned it in one of the books also, that because I have seen him be using different languages and in this medium, and I have been pestering him a little bit. Please keep writing, don't stop writing. We used to write, and he's a good writer as I knew him. But it brings this very interesting question. How I don't think there is only one unilanguage speaker anywhere, even in the world. I mean, worldwide also. Just one language, I don't think anybody is using that, which I think you can all discuss and clarify it for my knowledge. But ye hissa ke from one language to the other and to the third, mother tongue, which the setup that we have in India, mother tongue, Madri Zaban, then the Rashtra Bhasha, the national language, comes Hindi, we have one, and the global language, English, is also there, which is a link language between our languages. To understand or to know the writings of SMEs, we take the source becomes English, and to understand what is happening in Malayalam or Tamil, again the source becomes English if you don't know those languages. And it is serving a great purpose of link language. Yet, the exchange between languages is a new experience, which I saw in this festival today. And congratulations to Goa Festival for this, that this is the first time I saw from language to language within Indian languages so many translations coming up, which I think is an achievement for this festival. First time, I've been visiting all the festivals, but this is the first time I saw it here. Authors with 3 languages, translations in 3 languages. This morning we released a book with 4 languages. I think it's a wonderful tradition which has started. I would like to invite Saraj Sahab, who has come from all the way from Singapore, having knowledge of Indian language and whatever languages he has been using there, to start this subject and start this topic. How do you relate to this multi-language use or multi-language nature or habit within us?
Thank you, sir. I'm glad that you started with me because I'm the least qualified to talk on this subject, because I can only speak basically 3.75 languages. In other words, I speak English, it's my mother tongue. I'm Australian born. I live in Singapore. I'm married in Singapore, but I'm Australian. Sikh by choice. If people were wondering why this strange white fellow with a turban and a beard is sitting here. and I speak basically survival kit Punjabi. So I'm not highly qualified to talk on multilingualism, but when I first came to India in my journey, to this country and this culture, which I'd always dreamed of in my dream life about, doing an assignment for Radio National Australia, I was interviewing poets in Bombay from different languages. So I was very struck by this ease with which Indians in particular have with language. Obviously, English is there because all educated people speak English in India, but the mother tongue, like in the north, most people will be aware of Punjabi, Hindi and Urdu. These things are so blended, and this part of the world has its own language, family groups and so on. But I was very struck by this ease of shifting between registers of thought and feeling, and how people will slide into English to get the right nuance even. And that ease is so, such a rich tradition. So I tried to incorporate that in some of the recordings. So I went out to record the Indian English poets, and then the the language, the native language poets of India as much as I could. And then we put some of those on air in Australia. And the point I basically want to make is the culture obviously lives in the language. It lives on one's tongue, and you can lose everything, but if you lose the language, it's hard to get back to the basics of a tradition. The tradition holds things together. The language holds things together, and even for my entry into, say, Punjabi and Sikh culture, I had to learn Gurumukhi and to study, Guru Granth Sahib and so on. And it's a lot of effort for an older fellow. So my point finally will be to say, a place like Singapore has similar interesting things happening, because there are 4 official languages in Singapore. You have English, the language of business and education. You have now you have Mandarin, which has sort of been imposed by the government to replace dialects as a conscious, an attempt to unify the Chinese-speaking population. And then you have Tamil for the South Indians. Of course, there are North Indians, many, but the majority are Tamil. And then Malay for the indigenous originals of the Malay Peninsula. And every function almost is, almost they try to celebrate in those ways. And even in schools, mother tongue is taught for, according to your language group. If you're Malay, then you'll learn Malay as an elective subject, and Chinese, Mandarin, etc. Even to university level, you can't get to university without passing your mother tongue. Now, I don't know whether it's fully successful, because kids resist learning what they don't think they need, and I'm sure you're all aware of that as parents. But I think the effort that the government makes in this regard is a good one, because there is an understanding that respecting language is respecting culture, respecting the depth and tradition, and we need to retain that. So, to have this discussion, it's an ongoing one, but it's an important one, because if the language goes, many things leave with it. In a place like Goa, which is obviously so, it's always been a kind of the center of the start of the spice trade, colonialism, and now the new global form of colonialization with modernity, buildings, and so on. Hang on to the language.
Thank you very much. And I think this is an interesting point of view, because somebody from Australia coming here and learning Gurumukhi and for Guru Granth Sahib, I think that's why I touched with you first, because that was the most difficult and complex problem. So I thought that's why I wanted a comment from there to come over. And we proceed further, and let's see what the other batsmen have to say. And if you would like to carry it on further on this subject and would like to speak.
Greetings to all of you. The topic reminds me of a fair day in a small, tiny, cosmopolitan town. It was a fair day, and I went there. I saw a group of people surrounding a woman, and from time to time, the woman, she goes and shouting, "Sumprang, sumprang," and I proceed, "What sumprang?" Then host words were showered upon me. Peara, Ambak, Madhuri, Goya. The object became more elusive. Then I went nearer. Oh, it is guava. This is India. So the host words were not at all an obstacle in having a taste of these cream-colored ripe guavas. So multilingualism, it is our heritage. In Assam, Saint Sankardeva, he evolved a language called Brajavali. And it was a mixture of Moithili, Oriya, Bengali, Assamese, and Hindi from the Western Ghat region, and some sprinkling of Sanskrit. And in the Brajavali language, in 16th century, Sankardeva, he wrote devotional plays and some devotional beautiful songs, which we consider a great heritage for the Assamese people. And Sankardeva's use of multilingualism proves that it is our culture, it is our heritage. I am an Assamese woman writing in Assamese language. So I am a bilingual person. English is my daily bread, and I find my creative person fresh only in Assamese language. Once I want to portray the character of a Boru woman who is doubly displaced in her life. So for years, I can't find the exact form. But for some academic reasons, I had to read some Boru folk tales, and suddenly I got the form. So I have structured that novella into the oral literature of the Borus. So it is not possible for me to do in English. So I think that my access to Bengali language, it is a very good influence for me. I would have been impoverished without this, that is a blessed influence of noted writers like Asapurna Devi, Mahashweta Devi, and other great writers of Bengal. That monotonous homogeneity is not desired for. I think that multilingualism will make our culture more vibrant and more rich. So only English will make our new generation poor. But I think that nowadays, I'm a teacher and I'm constantly in touch with young generation. Nowadays I have noticed that the young generation, they try to find out the roots. They are more interested in the mother language and the heritage of India. Of course, it is in the context of globalization. Anyhow, and sometimes, I oppose the linguistic chauvinism. So, language is a medium of creation. It is not a medium for quarreling. It is not a subject for quarreling. So, I hope let 100 flowers bloom in India, and there must not be any linguistic chauvinism. So sometimes power is associated with some language, and sometimes superiority is also attached with some languages. This should not be there. So we must have multilingualism in India. Again, I want to tell you that let 100 flowers bloom, and language is a means of creation. It is not a means to quarrel. So let language be a medium of creation. That's all, and thank you.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I agree with you. Let 1,000 flowers keep blossoming here in this multilingual, multicultural land. Naik-sam, I would like to ask your opinion on this. While she is writing a novel, and in that novel, because if she is writing about her region, there must be other Indians also visiting, other Indian characters also. So, if they don't speak Assamese in a novel, if there are 4 characters or different characters appearing from different regions, how would you tackle them in your writing, if you do?
I think being multilingual is a great advantage, not only to the author, to layman also. A few years back, I was in Pondicherry, and I visited a school which was run by Advindo Ashram, and I was amazed to see they teach 5 languages. It starts from education. They teach your mother tongue, they teach Hindi, they teach English, Sanskrit and French because of historical reasons. So it's my opinion that in India we should teach 5 languages: mother tongue, Hindi, English, Sanskrit, and one of the Indian languages other than Hindi and your mother tongue, or one of the foreign languages. I will talk about, in my writing, I'm proud that I have coined some words by borrowing from the other language. I wanted a term for morning walk in my language. There was no suitable term. So I coined a word called Fatod Pauli. That word is taken from Shatapauli in Sanskrit. If I were not to know Sanskrit, I would not have invented this word Fatod Pauli. Similarly, I coined a word called Chitpakule, because I thought of Marathi word Fulpakharu, and I came to know, I coined this word Chitpakule. Now, it's very interesting, and I have written about it, about similarities in different languages. When you are multilingual, you know how there are similarities, and I'll dwell on that. In Sanskrit, there is a word kshir, milk. In Goa, we have khir. See the similarity. Grish, geem, summer. Sugrish, shigmo. Then Sharkara, sakar. Sukar, dukar. Shwan, sune. Now in Konkani, there is one word called Naurup. Kidya Naurup kela? Exactly similar word is in Sanskrit, Namarupa. Namarupa, Naurup is there. Now there are in Sanskrit and other languages also. Now Namas and Namas, see the similarity. Kand and Candy. Now and Navy. Durg and Burg, Salzburg and all that. Even if you know the Marathi, there are a number of Farsi words in Marathi, like halwa, bazar, khabardar, bin dikkat, nalayak. So come to your question, sir. If you are multilingual, you can coin different words, borrowing the words from the other languages, and that is a great advantage, I think.
Thank you very much. That's a lovely, very interesting point of view. बीच में I keep on speaking in Hindi also. Okay. या तो हालांकि coining and using words के हम यूँ भी कह देते हैं हम तो रात को ही morning walk पे चले गए थे. तो है ना? तो अच्छा कि आपने morning walk का एक लफ्ज़ बना दिया. और अल्फाज तो इसी तरह से लिए जाते हैं एक दूसरी ज़बान से. और ख़ास तौर पे ये जिस तरह से गांधी जी ने कहा था शुरू में ही कि ये उर्दू और हिंदी को अगर ये आप इस पे झगड़ा ना करें तो इसे हिंदुस्तानी बुला लीजिए, क्योंकि उर्दू हो या हिंदी हो वो जिस इलाके में जाती है वो वहाँ का लहजा अपना लेती है और वहाँ के अल्फाज उसमें शामिल हो जाते हैं. जैसे मैं पंजाबी में कहूँ कि नहीं जी 100% ये तक हो जड़ा इस हालत से, हालांकि उसमें है के अलावा बाकी सारे लफ्ज़ फारसी के हैं, है ना. 100% एक वो अंग्रेज पंजाबी की और वो खालस 100% और ये सारा फारसी से आया हुआ. तो ये अल्फाज कैफियत मराठी में और तरह से इस्तेमाल होता है, उर्दू में और तरह से इस्तेमाल होता है, बांग्ला में जाके कैफियत हो जाता है और वहाँ और तरह से इस्तेमाल हो जाता है। कश्मीर एक ऐसी जगह है जहाँ इस वक्त हम और हमारी उर्दू पनाह लेती है आगे। और मुझे यूँ महसूस होता है कि उर्दू में ख़ासतौर पे हमारी स्क्रिप्ट के लिए प्रॉब्लम है, उर्दू ज़बान के लिए कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, कोई मसला नहीं है उर्दू ज़बान का। हम 80% ज़बान जो फिल्मों में बोलते हैं वो उर्दू है, लेकिन लहजा उसका किरदार के हिसाब से बदल जाता है। और उसको जैसा गांधी जी का मैंने जिनका जिक्र किया कि उन्होंने कहा था कि इसको हिंदुस्तानी बुलाने लगो ना, अगर इसे हिंदुस्तानी कहोगे तो वो हर इलाके में अपना लहजा कायम कर लेगी, उसको जो जिसे हम कौमी ज़बान या नेशनल लैंग्वेज कहते हैं। कश्मीर ख़ास तौर पे उस जगह पर है जहाँ उर्दू ने पनाह लिया। मैं दरख्वास्त करूँगा कि आप बताइए कि वहाँ कितनी ज़बानें और कितनी बोलियाँ और ख़ास तौर पर डायलेक्ट से बोली जाती हैं।
शुक्रिया। Actually, Gulzar Sahab was talking about Urdu having taken refuge in J&K. But no, because it is the official language of J&K, even though it is nobody's mother tongue over there. Because Kashmiris speak, in the valley, they speak Kashmiri, the Jammu region speaks Dogri, in Ladakh there is Bodhi, and then there are any number of dialects in the Chenab valley. There is Punjabi also. And Kashmiri itself, unfortunately, they say that it used to have a script of its own, the Sharda script, but that fell into disuse for many centuries. So there is a little quarrel about the script because the majority would prefer it to be written in the Persian script, and they have devised phonetic signs and things which can reproduce Kashmiri vowel sounds which are different to Hindi and Urdu into so that those signs can be used in order to make it accurate. But there is a population of Kashmiri Pandits who are no longer living in the valley, and therefore they don't have access to the Urdu script. But they would prefer to use the Devanagari script for it. So here our own language is being divided in a certain way. And also I must tell you that as far as the vocabulary of Kashmiri is concerned, it is very rich, and it has never shown any self-consciousness about borrowing words from different languages. Our Kashmiri language, you will see, vocabulary-wise, is full of Persian words. There are Sanskrit words which we pronounce in our own way, so that they are not recognizable straight away to a Sanskrit-knowing person. And we have modified them to the extent that once when prayers were being chanted in this shrine of Kheer Bhavani, and this gentleman from South India happened to come there, who was a purist as far as Sanskrit pronunciation is concerned. So these were mantras being chanted, and he was fascinated, and he said, "Oh, Kashmiris have such a syncretic thing that they are saying their prayers in Arabic." Because of the Z and the Z, which predominance of it. But we have been happily using this language, but only problem is arisen because of the script. The Kashmiri Pandits, as I told you, who are a very small minority, but they are an educated minority, and they would like their children to know the language, so they are agitating for this script also to be accepted as an official script. But meanwhile, we have the Persian script, and it has been sort of perfected in order to accurately reflect the sounds of Kashmiri language. And but there is a competitiveness between Kashmiri and Dogri. For instance, when Kashmiri was recognized as one of the languages by Sahitya Academy, the Jammu region felt neglected, and they agitated that they wanted Dogri also to be included, which I believe has been done now. But there have never been any language quarrels as far as the state of Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. There are regional tensions, but languages have been allowed to flourish in their own way. And I'm very happy to say that a lot of excellent work is being done in Kashmiri language. Poetry, plays, short stories. We are particularly rich in short stories. And our poetic tradition goes back to the 14th century. and unbroken, and some of it came down in the oral tradition, but from the 19th century onwards, everything is written down. So ours is not a bleak scene as far as language is concerned. But the only thing is that people are not encouraged to speak in Kashmiri at home. This is something very sad. The younger generation are taught Urdu straight away and English because they feel that Kashmiri is not going to be of any use to them as far as their career is concerned. But we are naturally trilingual because we know Kashmiri and we know Urdu and we also know English. And some of us know Hindi also. And in the older generation, of course, they automatically knew Farsi also. And even now in our Kashmiri usage, there are so many proverbs which are used by everybody, irrespective of their religion. And because they are so accurate and they express a particular view most accurately. So I'm very glad that you have given me this opportunity to tell you something about a little known language of this Indian subcontinent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And it's not a little known language, it's a very well known language. सिर्फ ये है कि वो उस ज़बान, उस लहजे में आता है जो हम कश्मीर में आपस में बोलते हैं। और जब पंडित लोग वहाँ पे अगर अब नहीं भी हैं तो भी वो कश्मीरी ज़बान बोलते हैं और जानते हैं। वो डोगरी उनकी ज़बान होने के बावजूद भी डोगरी भी वैली में समझी भी जाती है, बोली भी जाती है, पंजाबी भी बोली जाती है, उर्दू बोली जाती है। और मेरा ख्याल है उसकी बड़ी वजह सिर्फ ये है कि कश्मीरी की स्क्रिप्ट वो उर्दू रस्मुल ख़त जिसे हम कहते हैं उर्दू स्क्रिप्ट से आई है, जो सबसे पहले मेरा ख्याल है कि ये दाएं हाथ से लिखे जाने वाली स्क्रिप्ट सिंधी में है, सिंध में आई यहाँ पर, जो अरबी और फारसी के इन्फ्लुएंस से आई। और जिस तरह से देवनागरी भोजपुरी बोलने के लिए या दूसरी पूर्वी या ब्रिज भाषा के लिए देवनागरी इस्तेमाल की जाती है, जो हिंदी के लिए भी इस्तेमाल की जाती है। अब देवनागरी स्क्रिप्ट में बहुत सारी ज़बानें और बहुत सी बोलियां बोली जाती हैं, जिस तरह से उर्दू स्क्रिप्ट में कश्मीरी भी लिखी जाती है, दक्कनी भी उसी स्क्रिप्ट में लिखी जाती है, जैसे हम दक्कन की हैदराबाद के नीचे की साउथ की ज़बान बोलते हैं। और उर्दू ज़बान क्योंकि वो फिर जिस वक्त बनी है तो वो कहीं वो फारसी का इन्फ्लुएंस तो जहांगीर के ज़माने में जाके आया, उससे पहले खुसरो के ज़माने से अगर देखें तो उसमें हमारे ब्रिज और पूर्वी और अवधी ये सारी ज़बानें उसमें शामिल थी, ब्रिज भाषा शामिल थी बहुत ज़्यादा। वो तो जाके बाद में जहांगीर का दौर आता है जहाँ पे जाके उसको पर्शियनाइज किया गया और वहाँ से वो लहजा बदलना शुरू किया। वरना उर्दू की फॉर्मेशन में अगर देखें तो जैसे कुछ अल्फाज हैं जैसे ट ठ ड ये न अरबी में है न फारसी में, वो हिंदुस्तान से आया, यहाँ की हमारी बोलियों से उसमें शामिल हुआ उर्दू ज़बान में, वरना ट ठ ड नहीं उस ज़बान में कहीं भी है। या भ फ थ ठ ढ ये सारे संस्कृत से आए हुए उर्दू के अंदर, वरना आप अरबी फारसी कहीं भी देख लीजिए तो ये ह के साथ जितनी आवाज़ें वो नहीं है ना। कश्मीर में अब भी जब कश्मीरी बोलते हैं तो ह की ज़बान का लहजा नहीं आता उसमें, और बाई बोलते हैं, भाई को बाई बोलेंगे है ना, लेकिन घर को घर बोलते हैं, घर नहीं है घर बोलते हैं। हाँ घर जाएगा भाई तो बाई आ जाता है, वहाँ पे वो ह का लहजा वहाँ पे वो निकल जाता है। लेकिन बड़ी दिलचस्प बात ये है कि जब मैं उर्दू ज़बान का जिक्र आपके साथ कर रहा हूँ कश्मीर के उससे ताल्लुक़ से, तो इसका जिक्र पहले भी आया था कि उर्दू मादरी ज़बान जब आप कहते हैं तो मादरी ज़बान तो कश्मीरी है, वो मादरी ज़बान है। उर्दू को नहीं आप कह सकते कि उर्दू मादरी ज़बान है, क्योंकि मादरी ज़बान एक अलग चीज़ है, वो अलग बात है और ये एक बोली है, डायलेक्ट है। लेकिन फैज़ अहमद फैज़, सादत हसन मंटो, राजेंद्र सिंह बेदी, कृष्ण चंद्र, अहमद नदीम कासमी, आप जितने मर्जी उर्दू के नाम सिवाय 19वीं सदी के लखनऊ दिल्ली का मरकज छोड़ के दीजिए, ये सब की ज़बान फैज साहब से लेके बेदी साहब तक पंजाबी उनकी मादरी ज़बान है, लिखते उर्दू हैं। उनको दर्जा उन्होंने मादरी ज़बान का दे दिया, लेकिन मादरी ज़बान उनकी नहीं है। मादरी ज़बान उनकी सबकी पंजाबी है, सब पंजाबी बोलते हैं, पंजाबी लिखते हैं। सादत हसन मंटो की ज़बान पंजाबी है, वो भी पंजाबी बोलते हैं, उनकी मादरी ज़बान पंजाबी, उर्दू में लिखते हैं। तो ये एक मसला हमारे साथ अलग हुआ, क्योंकि ज़बान किसी भी मजहब की मलकियत नहीं है, उसका कोई ताल्लुक किसी मजहब के साथ नहीं है कि उर्दू मुसलमानों की ज़बान है ये वहाँ के। तो मजहब के ताल्लुक से जब आप जिक्र करते हैं तो मुझे ये एहसास होता है कि मैं ये कहूँ, कम से कम मुझे ये महसूस होता है कि किसी भी ज़बान का ताल्लुक उसके मजहब के साथ नहीं है, उसमें कंट्रीब्यूशन हर मजहब वालों का उसके ज़बान में आता है। मैं इस हवाले से पूछना चाहता हूँ कि मराठी में क्या हाल है। मराठी में आपको, और मैं आखिर में दौर में आने वाला हूँ मैं संदेश के पास, ताकि जहाँ से शुरू की थी बात है वहाँ पे हम लाके उसको एक दायरा मुकम्मल कर सकें। प्लीज।
Good evening, everyone. In fact, the question which is posed by Sri Gulzarji to me is a very pointed question. I would like to come to that question later. But before, I would also like to give my own perspective on multilingualism, because this is a theme that we were told that we are supposed to reflect on this multilingualism. And I am very sorry, you will have to forgive me if I sing a slightly different tune from my fellow speakers, because they have actually celebrated the multilingualism. They believe that languages connect, and it is an idealistic position, idealism of language, which is very good. But there is also something called realism of language, linguistic. There is a poetics of language and there is a politics of language. I believe that if you ignore the politics of language, then you can't really produce a good poetics of language. Because I believe that living in a Goa or living in India, where we have to encounter at least 2 to 3 languages. I, for example, can speak in 4 languages, write in 3 languages. But are we only discussing language, or are we going deeper than this? I believe that in the last 20 years have been extremely difficult for multilingualism. Although multilingualism has become a watchword, everybody talks about multilingualism and multiculturalism as if it is a sacred cow. It has become some kind of a prestige to be able to speak about it eloquently. But do we really do that at home? Are we really the same person, or are we practicing what we are not preaching? I have always felt that it reminds me of a very great story in Old Testament Bible. People of Shinan, they had become very proud. They wanted to go rise a tower, and they decided to say that Tower of Babel. They started building that Babel Tower. It was going higher and higher. So God was trembling. He thought that if they reach, then they will be my equal. So I must now see that they don't have their concerted efforts. So he created different tongues, different languages. And people started speaking in different languages. And the tower, they could not build tower because one could not understand the other. Now this kind of situation, sometimes I feel as a writer, I'm seeing this around me, that one language is not able to understand the philosophy of other language. So when we are talking about multilingualism, I feel that a lot needs to be done. And I feel that the politics of language that I spoke, if you want to understand the politics of language, we have to also understand the politics of identity, or identity politics. As long as we are defining ourselves in terms of one language and believe that one language is superior to other, then I don't think we have much of a hope. We may give platitude, we may talk very sweetly about loving all the languages, but still believing that my language is the best. If this kind of hypocrisy, this kind of doublespeak is allowed, I don't think then the multilingualism will reach anywhere. So I believe that in an Indian context, each one of us should be given a choice to choose not just 1, 2, 3, but variety of identities, including linguistic. That will, I think, make us more tolerant. That will give us a kind of panoramic view of Indian situation. And I believe that this is the way forward for multilingualism. Now, as far as Marathi is concerned, sir, you will find that there are 2 or 3 different sensibilities. There are modernists who write in a, say, slang, who are able to express themselves the modern idioms. And there are people who are writing traditionalists, who are all the time talking about saints and their tradition, their linguistic heritage, all that stuff. Even their worldview is very traditional. Whereas the modernists are actually looking forward. They may not feel the connect between them and the tradition, but they are able to relate to the current world. I feel that in our world today, we have to actually acquire a new sensibility, which means we have to actually acquire a truly multilingual, multicultural, and multi-religious worldview. Then I think our task is challenging, and we are making some difference. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, very well said. And Vishram ji, I'm happy with this view of yours, लेकिन एक चीज, एक लहजा और one attitude, which I don't think we have an attitude of my language is superior and the other is inferior. And that's, if somebody has that kind of an attitude or a complex, one mine is superior or the other man is inferior or one is suppressing the other, this is one thing which these literary festivals are helping, are serving this purpose. Let's share. आओ ज़बानें बांट लें अब अपनी अपनी हम, आओ ज़बानें बांट लें अब अपनी अपनी हम, हमको समझना है, हम ना हमको सुनना है ना तुमको समझना है। तो हम बाइबल के उस चैप्टर की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं आज, क्योंकि वो हमें समझ में आ गया था कि वो टावर हमें बनाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, बजाय ऊपर जाने के लेट्स कम डाउन टू द सॉइल, कम डाउन टू द ग्राउंड। और इसीलिए कि हम आपस की ये ज़बानें इस तरह से शेयर कर रहे हैं और ये सही है कि मतलब इस आपस में बांटना कि नहीं मेरी ज़बान ज़्यादा या मेरी ज़्यादा या मेरे इलाके में तो मेरी ही ज़बान चलेगी, आपके इलाके में आप चलाइए, हम आपको इजाज़त देते हैं, ऐसा भी नहीं है। हम ये बांटना है इसीलिए ताकि मुझे समझना है कि आप क्या कह रहे हैं, आप क्या कह रहे हैं लोगों के लिए नहीं, आप मुझे क्या समझ रहे हैं। तो मुझे ये तो मालूम होना चाहिए कि आप जो बोल रहे हैं वो कहीं पंजाबी में या किसी पश्तो में या किसी ज़बान में गाली देगी तो नहीं निकल गया। हाँ, तो इसलिए भी मुझे वो ज़बान सीखनी है कि आप क्या कह रहे हैं, तो ताकि मैं आपको भी ये समझना है कि मैं आपकी खिदमत के लिए हाजिर हुआ हूँ, कहीं आप समझें कि मैं आपकी टांग खींच के लेके जा रहा हूँ, ऐसा भी नहीं है। मैं पाँव छूना चाहता हूँ तो चरण स्पर्श को गलत ना समझा जाए, उसे वही चरण स्पर्श ही समझा जाए और उसे टांग खींचाई ना समझी जाए। तो मकसद ये फेस्टिवल का यही है और इसीलिए मेरा ख्याल है आज शाम ये टॉपिक मुझे जो सौंप दिया है दामोदर जी ने मौजू से, तो मैं उस मौजू पे कोशिश कर रहा हूँ समझने की और बात करने की। मैं उससे पहले कि हम आपस में फिर सवाल करें या आपस में कोई और ओपिनियन जो भी पैनलिस्ट यहाँ देना चाहें, इट्स वेलकम फॉर एनी कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन और एनी सिंपैथी और एनी हक में हो या खिलाफ हो। मैं उससे पहले आई वांट टू कंप्लीट दिस सर्कल, ये पूरा दायरा पूरा करके कि संदेश से पूछूं कि आपने ये बड़ा अच्छा काम किया है जो इतनी सारी ज़बानों का, और आपको क्या महसूस होता है कि दूसरी ज़बानें किस तरह आपसे बात करती हैं, किस तरह आपके साथ रहती हैं, और हमारा एटीट्यूड या बर्ताव आगे के लिए क्या होना चाहिए? बिकॉज विद द टाइम the culture changes and the language also changes, and those changes I think we should accept and we should be ready for it. ये नहीं कि इंग्लिश को हम इंग्लिश बनाना शुरू कर दें कि कोई भी एक जुमला पूरा हम किसी एक ज़बान में नहीं बोल सकते। एक जो खराबी जो आज महसूस होने लग गई है बहुत सरकार से ज़्यादा, जैसे मुझे एक साहब ने कहा कि आजकल आप लिरिक्स में बहुत सारे इंग्लिश के वर्ड्स यूज़ करते हैं, तो मैंने उनसे कहा जरा एक दफ़ा दोबारा कहिए कि आजकल आप लिरिक्स में बहुत ज़्यादा इंग्लिश के वर्ड्स यूज़ करते हैं। मैंने इसमें हिंदी के लफ्ज़ कितने और अंग्रेज़ी के कितने होते हैं? तो ये ज़बान हम आम तौर पे बोलने लगे हैं। मेरा ख्याल है इसका ज़रा सा, मेरी राय है, अपनी पर्सनल राय, आपकी मर्ज़ी है कि आप ज़बानें सारी खूबसूरत हैं, जो बोलें एक बात तो पूरी बोलिए कम से कम, या पूरी हिंदी बोल लीजिए, पूरी अंग्रेज़ी बोल लीजिए, अंग्रेज़ी बड़ी खूबसूरत ज़बान है, अंग्रेज़ी बोलिए, लेकिन ये मलीदा मत कीजिए क्योंकि इसमें आप सब ज़बानों की बेइज्जती कर रहे हैं।
Everybody who has come for his function, and I am really grateful because I wanted to. I was not interested in book release per se, but I was more interested in having this discussion on multilingualism. And basically, I thought that I should come out with all 3 books in 3 different languages at one time. Not because I can write it, but basically because I represent a generation of Goa who can write in 3 languages. And there was a generation before me, maybe my father, my parents' generation, who could write in 4 languages. They could also write in Portuguese, or people who went to Dharwad for education, they could also write in Kannada, or some people could write in Gujarati. This multilingualism has been the richness of Goa. And I am somewhere that my concern is that this is dying very fast and we are becoming monolingual. So that is my concern, which I see in front of my eyes. And that's why I wanted to have this debate. I'm very happy that people from Singapore is just like Goa, it is a city-state. And there are so many languages. And even Muni Singh Saab was telling me that still there is compartmentalization in Singapore. Whereas you are saying that the younger generation is trying to go to the roots and trying to understand languages, many languages and the original language, which is not the case in Goa. What is happening, there is in Goa, there is a little language controversy where Konkani was suppressed, and because of that, many people thought that Konkani is a dialect of Marathi, which we were very thankful that we could learn Marathi. But then people are saying that no, Marathi is a language, Konkani is a dialect. All such things were there, and my parents were staunch Marathivadi. I have dedicated my Konkani book to my parents, saying that they never humiliated Konkani. They never undermined Konkani. I am dedicating it to those parents who were staunch Marathivadis, but they never humiliated Konkani. This was the scene. But recently I go for swimming every day. And one day there were some 2-3 boys who were taking shower, and they didn't close the shower. So I told them, "Are shower band kar madam." Shower band karna stana kya hai? He said, "What?" I said, "Shower band kar." He said, "What?" I didn't understand. I said, "Are you a Goan?" He said, "Yes, Konkani karna." And the answer he gave me was disturbed me a lot. He said, "I hate Konkani." I could understand if they had said, "I don't understand Konkani," because that is what आपने भी बोला कि घर में भी अंग्रेजी बोलने लगे हैं. That is the thing. But more than that, which was disturbing, where they said that I hate Konkani. Recently, we had an agitation here on medium of instruction, basically on learning languages, whether learning in language or learning language. That was mixed up, and in one of my articles also is there that medium of destruction. There is one article which I have written. So it is where I could, more than learning languages, I saw the hatred towards another language. So I'm not, forget me learning languages, but I have started hating other languages. So are we creating that kind of generation in Goa today? And I just wanted in here so that I could get a national, all of us could get a national and international perspective also, where I think my friend Datta Naik put it very nicely that in Pondicherry, 5 languages are taught today. They learn 5 languages, but that is not the scenario here. Here the scenario is changing slowly, where we are saying that we are going to learn only one language, we are going to speak only one language, we are going to write only in one language and not other languages. So I think this whole thing has given us something where we can think that how multilingualism can enrich us. That is what I think.
Thank you very, 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 very much, Sandesh. I think we have had good views of multilingual views actually from everybody and multilingual comments everybody. Time I think is winding up. Would you like to take up a question or two or any comments from the panelists if you have to add anything to it? If any of the panelists want to add anything more to it, you're welcome.
If you may allow me, I wrote a poem on the subject of multilingualism in India some years ago. Came out finally in this book called Directions to a Bombay Poetry Sammelan. So it's a kind of an invitation to the idea of multilingual culture. So that's the idea of the poem. And it's spoken by an Oxford-educated Bombay Walla, you can say, an educated man speaking to a foreigner. So I thought it's a little satire. I think you might enjoy it, and I think it might resonate to this discussion. So, you desire to hear the real poetry? Then take 3-wheeler from station, 10 minutes only, just a few rupees. A function is being held in the suburbs, a college not well known, but tonight the poets will be the real thing, unlike we English-speaking types. Those fellows say we cannot dream in our mother tongue. I assure you, that is all jealousy. Inside the auditorium, when curtain lifts, sitting on stage, ready to recite, will be Marathi, Gujarati and Hindi all-stars invited to the Silver Jubilee celebration of the Vili Pale School of Economics. Compere, Dad Farooq and Center Table will provide apposite couplets. The stage will be adorned with red and white rosettes. The Marathis will be stridently satirical. Oh, those fellows draw crowds, I must admit. Gujaratis will sing their heartfelt ghazals. Watch especially for Yogendra Chandra, his hair long as a wandering sadhu, his delicate palms, red roses nodding in the breeze of mystic anachronism. And yes, Dr. Sachdev, that squeaky chap, will read from Orchard of Nightingales, his verse play nominated last year only by the Sahityar Academy. But tonight, dear friend, the draw card will be someone, well, not a poet exactly, a celebrity, Vishwanath Gupshup, the film star. A most devoted chewer of betel nut, he will declaim with rhetorical hands and transport all to a higher plane where even the gods will be throwing money. Notice too, the audience playing its part with choruses of wah wah, wah wah. It will fill auditorium like the houris in the highest rose garden of paradise. You will not be disappointed, I assure you. As for me, well, I fear I cannot make it, these things to go on and on. Yes, we Indians have no sense of time. Until tomorrow then, I will come to your hotel. We will have a drink. Just think of anything you want to see. My days are yours in the city of 7 islands. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. I think that's a very poetic note to finish this session. And if you allow me, let's wind it up today. And thank you very much to all of you.